Fallout Equestria the Chrysalis, Chapter 20, Part 4. Dusty wasn't there, but Sickle was, lying against the outer wall with a foreleg hanging out of the window, and looking precisely as if she had just had wild and vigorous sex with 3 different stallions in rapid succession. Her head wobbled as it turned my way, her pupils pinpricks despite the dim lighting, and she smiled upon seeing me.
Wisp,
she said in a quiet and almost dreamlike tone. She raised a hoof, beckoning me over.
Wisp, come here.
I took a hesitant step forward.
Are you okay?
She gave a quiet chuckle, her head leaning to the side to rest on the edge of the window, and her hoof dropped to her side.
Yeah, I'm good.
Her eyes shifted, staring off into space.
I think the buck wore off. Well, something's still working.
I noted, and she cracked a smile again.
Yeah, I loaded up on painkillers and they're great for relaxing.
She trailed off, once again staring off into space. A small frown slowly formed. I took another step closer. Even with the excessive amounts of drugs likely involved, such erratic swings in behavior are always concerning.
Is something wrong? Nah,
she said.
Just thinking.
I immediately imagined all the snarky things Starlight might say in response to that, ranging from comments on smoke or grinding gears to simple expressions of concern. Sickle, oblivious to my thoughts, beckoned with her hoof again.
Come here already. What were you thinking about?
I asked, taking another cautious step forward.
Nothing.
Sickle drawled, then immediately contradicted herself.
That green bitch.
I halted, ears perking up.
Emerald? Yeah, green bitch.
She stared out of the window, blinking a few times.
She thinks I'm a good pony or some shit.
I moved up beside her, looking on with curiosity.
She does? She's stupid.
Sickle blinked a few more times before realizing how close I was, then smiled as she reached out. I was too close and too slow to react as she looped a foreleg around my shoulders and dragged me off of my hooves. I ended up laid out against her side, pinned under a heavy foreleg. Her head wobbled as she leaned over, her eyes struggling to focus on me and giving me a face full of sour breath as she spoke in a low, slurred voice that I assumed was supposed to be seductive.
Hey, you wanna do your shape thingy and change into that big-ass stallion? I bet you can put all 3 of those little colts to shame.
My ears pinned back as I frowned at her.
I'd rather not, thank you. Oh, okay.
Her tone was disappointed, her smile fading a bit. She shifted her position. Her leg lifted from my chest, but before I could capitalize on my freedom, her hooves had closed on my sides and she bent down, shoving her massive muzzle between my hind legs.
Hey!
I snapped, planting my hooves on her head and shoving.
Sickle, knock it off! Settle down,
she mumbled, shaking her head to throw off my hooves and pressing in again, her snout practically ramming against my groin. I kicked and twisted, my heart pounding.
Sickle, stop it!
Her head twisted as I shoved, shaking off my hooves again, and I kicked wildly to push her away, but she ignored it.
I'm just trying to... Damn it, stop squirming!
Her hooves tightened around me, pinning me to the floor as she pressed in again, overpowering any attempt that I could make to stop her.
Settle down, Ow!
One of my wild kicks had managed to catch her in the neck, and while I doubt it did anything to harm her, it was apparently just enough to catch her attention. Her head snapped back, eyes wide and blinking, as if surprised by the blow. Then, her expression hardened into one of furious rage. She hit me. I know this only from later deduction, as I have no memory of the blow itself. The whole transition from that look of rage to what came after is a jumbled mess of confused thoughts. The brain does strange things when recovering from unconsciousness. For some undecipherable period of time, I was convinced that I was walking through a tunnel leading out of my hive. In that dreamlike state, the faint, wavering light in front of me was the end of that tunnel, leading out into the open air beyond. My face felt odd, as if there was some weight resting across it. I thought it was wet. I drifted through the tunnel like a ghost. Slowly, the feeling of my body manifested once again. Something touched the side of my face, which I was slowly coming to realize felt wrong. My eyes cracked open, returning a blurry view of a silhouette before me. The lip of a bottle touched my lips, a cold fluid splashing into my mouth, and I drunkenly reached up to grip at the object, holding on as I swallowed. A tingle ran through me, mostly my face, and the world slowly coalesced. The light I had been following through the tunnel revealed itself to be the bare bulb hanging from the room's ceiling. The taste that lingered in my mouth was that of a healing potion. The silhouette looming above me was Sickle. Her ears hung low, and her expression was one that I had never seen on her before. Concern. It struck me as completely bizarre, even as my brain struggled to come up to speed. As I was slowly piecing together exactly what had led to that moment, Sickle spoke.
Sorry.
The ember of anger that was flaring up ready to consume my emotions was instantly snuffed out. If it had been anyone else, that one word on its own would have been grossly insufficient, but this was Sickle. Rather than show any form of contrition over the terrible things that she had done, she wore them with a sense of pride, but now she looked ashamed. I lay there for several seconds, blinking as my eyes finished focusing.
What was that?
I halted immediately. My voice was wrong. I lifted my head to look down at my black hole-filled hooves, still clutching at the bottle of the healing potion that Sickle had fed me. My head reeled as I laid down again with a soft groan. The surface it met was soft. I was laying in a bed. Sickle rumbled, her voice low and quiet.
You changed when I hit you,
she said.
I thought I might have killed you.
I focused on breathing for a couple of seconds until my head cleared up and tried speaking again.
What was that all about?
She grunted faintly, rolling her jaw. I could see her eyes better, the pupils still looking constricted, but much less so than before. Finally, she grumbled.
I don't know, wanted to do something nice for you.
She looked away, reaching up to wearily rub a hoof at the side of her face.
Sure fucked that up.
My ears pinned back.
And that was supposed to be something nice?
She grimaced.
Shit, the only things I'm good at is fighting and fucking. I know you had fun fucking Star. I thought maybe you'd like some more fucking. It made sense at the time. I don't know why.
Her face slowly contorted into a grimace.
And fuck, it ain't like that kick even hurt. I just got so pissed off.
The look of anger quickly bled away, leaving her staring blankly at the floor. I stared at her for a long time. A part of me wanted to snap at her, just to verbally lay into her over what a stupid idea it had been, but the more logical part of my mind recognized how pointless it would be. She was already making an unprecedented apology. Venting might be cathartic, but it wouldn't be productive. So instead, I asked,
why did you want to do something nice for me?
She shrugged weakly, without answering. Several seconds passed before she turned further, presenting her back to me, and flopped down on her side. The impact jostled me and produced a loud screeching groan from the bed, but the tortured piece of furniture held. After a long silence, I spoke again.
Sickle?
Still, no answer. Eventually, I rolled to my side and weakly pushed myself up. My head spun, my heart beat loud in my ears, but I eventually made it. Touching a hoof to my sore muscle revealed that it was sticky with congealing blood. I looked around. I was in Sickle's room, which was littered with empty cans, various alcohol and pill bottles, and thick slabs of metal that formed her armor. It took a moment to find the wash basin, and my horn lit up, floating over a washcloth, and even that minor effort sent a faint throb through my head. Sickle continued to lie there, her eyes half-lidded as she stared at the wall. I had cleaned away most of the blood when Sickle finally spoke.
I'm leaving in the morning.
I finished wiping away the blood that had run down my cheek and floated the washcloth back over to the wash basin. Then I looked to her.
Why?
Her eyes closed.
'Cause I'm gonna kill one of you if I don't. You're scared something like this will happen again?
Her jaw tightened.
I ain't scared of shit.
I quickly rephrased that in a more palatable fashion.
You're concerned for our well-being?
She slowly relaxed and eventually grunted.
Yeah, sure.
I reached out, gently resting a hoof on the side of her thick neck.
You're not used to caring about other ponies, are you?
She gave a faint snort that I took as an affirmation.
I'm guessing that you haven't had many friends before?
She went still, her eyes opening again. For a moment, she didn't move or even breathe. She simply stared at the wall in front of her. Then she took a long, slow breath and spoke. Her words were quiet but hard.
There's only been one pony I ever thought of as a friend, and I beat him to death. Was it on purpose?
She said.
And I was sober. And I made sure that he suffered.
The muscles of her neck had tightened under my hoof. A tremble ran through her body, and cautiously I asked,
What happened?
Her ears flicked, and she closed her eyes. When it was clear that I wasn't getting an answer, I changed tracks.
Don't leave. Why not?
I stroked my hoof gently along her neck.
Because when you're not being intentionally grotesque or trying to smash my face in, I've come to somewhat like you.
She snorted.
So what, when I'm asleep? No,
I said. I scooted forward, gingerly lowering myself to lie against the back of her shoulders and neck. My foreleg rested gently across her neck, while my head rested against the back of hers. I ignored the dirty, oily smell of her scraggly mane.
When you set aside the whole emotional armor thing that you've built up and try to be friendly.
She was silent for a long time before giving a soft huff, deflating as the tension in her body slowly faded away. After that, she remained silent and still. I remained there, slowly stroking along her neck as she lay there, until I drifted off into unconsciousness once more. I distantly heard the sound of the door shutting and the soft clopping of hooves on the wooden floor. A hoof touched my side, giving a gentle but firm shake, and words pierced the fog of sleep to reach my groggy brain. "Whisper, put your disguise on." It was Dusty's voice. I groaned something unintelligible and slowly focused on my magic. My head throbbed as I did so, but a few seconds later my magic washed over me, transforming me into my favorite earth pony guise. I rolled onto my back, my forelegs sliding away from Sickle's neck, and slowly blinked up at Dusty. "You need to get up," Dusty said, his expression serious. "We have a job." You know, in a crazy and fucked up way, that was actually kinda sweet and wholesome. Never would've even expected that, but I'm glad it did. Now let's get on to our badass donators. Top donators: Peter Coulthard, J10Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. TacoCat598, Zar630, Strix, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, CrazyClear557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyre, Daspo, Delta Omega, Jack Cadge, RuneSlightly9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Hudson Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGod12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hut Zaza, Lifegiver, and many more sweet people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.